Welcome everybody to the call. Should be getting our attendees through now, hopefully. So we're here today to talk about tech women opportunities, and we've got a group of successful women who work in IT. So it should be an interesting conversation today. We're going to be discussing some roles in IT, and the women are going to be sharing their experiences and their knowledge with you. And hopefully you'll be able to take away some tips and some things to think about that should hopefully help inform you in your career choices and just give you a bit more information about what it's like to work in IT as well, and put some human faces behind the kind of people that work in IT as well. I'll just check that everyone can hear me okay. Just a thumbs up or yeah, okay, brilliant. Okay, so some of the topics that we'll be talking about today are the kind of opportunities in IT, some of the skills that you require to work in IT, the kind of roles that are available, choosing your specialism and things to think about before you go into the world of IT, and some tips as well on how to enter the IT market and get employed, and the kinds of things that you should be asking yourself as well. So it's going to be quite an informal chat. We've got the chat box available to you as well. So if you've got any questions as you go, feel free to pop them in there for our panelists. We'll be doing a Q&A at the end as well. So any of the questions that we don't manage to pick up during the chat, we'll pick up right at the end. And hopefully we'll be able to get through all of your questions and your comments. So introductions then. I'm a senior project manager. I work for Leidos, and this is kind of a subject that's close to my heart in terms of career paths into IT, because I started off in something very different. I started off in art. I'm still a painter and I still paint now, but I have found that I've got a lot of transferable skills that I picked up during my degree that eventually somehow I ended up in the world of IT, but I do genuinely enjoy it. So that's a bit about myself. So we'll just start off then doing introductions, and we'll go through our panelists that we've got today. They're going to give you a bit of an introduction on themselves, what it is that they do now and how they got into their current role.
Hi, do you want me to start?
Yes, go for it, Amandine.
Hi, so my name is Amandine. I currently work in a digital agency as a front-end developer. And so to tell you a bit about my path, I guess I've always been more of a self-taught kind of person. So where I learned the basic of coding skills from my bedroom. As a teenager, I was always kind of stuck to the screen, working on a fair amount of little small sites and customizing things back in the days, like MySpace fan profiles and PHP BB forums and things like that. So that taught me quite a lot in terms of essentials, coding skills in PHP, MySQL, HTML, CSS, and using different softwares like Dreamweaver, Flash, Photoshop. And then I never really considered this as a kind of job or career path straight ahead. I was more focused on the more music side of my life at the time. So trying to break it into sound engineering, PR, marketing, digital marketing, some live music photography, some live event management, and then eventually kind of all kinds of roles in retail, hospitality, and a bit of accounting as well. And then eventually I discovered that I could do a course for free in Scotland. So I went to study at the Glasgow Caledonian University, and I did a computing web development degree, which really allowed me to concentrate on this path 100% of my time. So I didn't have to work a full-time kind of job aside of it that was completely unrelated. I could work part-time and concentrate on that. And then eventually found a few internships and positions which allowed me to work in the field. And these were within more or less independent companies and agencies. And I've had the chance to work with different tech stacks as well. So LAMP .NET, Umbraco, React, some serverless technologies, and at the minute Vue.js as well. So that's about me.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I don't know whether we've managed to get Beth on the call or not, or whether she's still having technical issues.
Yeah, I just got in now. It wasn't offering
Ah,
me
brilliant.
to be a panelist, but yeah, I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Good timing. Thanks, Beth. So we're just at the point where we're doing introductions for everybody, and just telling yourself a little bit about what you do now and a little bit about how you got there as well.
Yep, so I'm a test engineer at an agency called Storm ID. So I didn't start out in tech. I started out in systems engineering for a defense company, which is a very different atmosphere to tech. It's a lot kind of slower paced, but a lot of the kind of skill sets really the same. Kind of going a wee bit further back, my degree was in physics. So that's kind of how I ended up in aerospace and engineering. And then a lot of the kind of skills that you learn there kind of relate to test engineering and things and can be applied to the tech industry. I guess kind of preempting all that and where my kind of interest in STEM kind of came from was just kind of enjoying maths and stuff at school. And I'm from an RAF village as well, so we're exposed to a lot of airplanes. It's super loud. You don't realise till you go back home and you hear the typhoon going over the top, how difficult it is to hear and sleep. But yeah, so that's a bit about me. I'm sorry for being late.
The main thing is you're here now, you managed to get in. Thank you very much. And we've got Bushra next.
Hi everyone, I am Bushra, joining from Glasgow, originally Turkish, and I am a .NET and Umbraco developer at an agency called Bump Digital. We're working remote but based in Bath normally. And I wasn't a developer, or I didn't study as being a developer either. Didn't study computer science. I studied math, and it is actually being a scientist. But then I got some certifications around being a teacher afterwards, and then I was a mathematics teacher for high school students for 5 years back in Turkey. But I was always really interested in coding, but mostly cryptography actually. But I knew that I had to go through the coding bit. I had to learn how to develop to go through cryptography as well. And I am like kind of amending to, like, I self-taught in the beginning and then got a course from Turkey from a really big technical university. Got kind of a degree there. And then when I moved to Scotland, I got my first internship from another digital agency in Glasgow. And yeah, that's me. I've been a developer for, I think it's going to be almost 3 years now. Yeah, it's about me.
Brilliant. Thank you. And finally, we've got Rosa.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I'm currently a backend developer at a marketing agency in Glasgow called Dog Digital. And my way into tech was very roundabout, although it did start quite early. I used to go on this website called Girlland that is definitely obsolete now. And it was like a really old forum where people would just post about like Avril Lavigne and how no one understood them or whatever. But your posts on the forum, you could edit the HTML and CSS. This is going back like 18 years ago. And all the girls on the site became really competitive and making their posts look the best. And I, at the time, had no idea what I was actually doing was coding. I just thought this was like quite a creative way of making things look pretty. And that idea of like something not looking right and tweaking it and then coming back and, oh, it's still not right. And then going and tweaking it again. And then the feeling of something working and looking how you want it to look was like actually addictive and really rewarding. But I never actually studied IT at school. I went to like a really rural high school, and the IT department was not inspiring at all. And there was no actual coding. It seemed back then that it was like sending a Word document via an email was like GCSE IT. But I ended up doing English literature and film and TV at Glasgow Uni, and I was really passionate about the arts and humanities at the time. But after 4 years, I felt really disillusioned with it and quite frustrated, because it is such a subjective kind of course, or like sort of subjects. I felt like all I had learned after 4 years was how to write an essay, how to form an argument that would please my professors. And yeah, so after that, I didn't do anything with my degree. I worked in bars and restaurants for a bit. And then I moved to China to try teaching English, see if I would like that. And after about a year, a friend who was in China with me, she was working at a marketing department, and she said, "Oh, we need a copywriter." And I had no idea what a copywriter was. And she said, "As your English degree is good enough to become a copywriter." So I went to work in this office, and it was the first introduction to like the world of work, or like office life. And I had no idea what a UX designer or a social media executive or any marketing executives were at the time, but I ended up working alongside of a lot of those people. And part of my role was to do some tweaking of our WordPress site, and some of it was like tweaking HTML and CSS. And it was like, oh my God, I used to do this whenever I was like 12, and I loved this. And where would I be now if I had kept on doing it? And I spoke to some of the developers in our team and said, you know, have I missed the boat on this? I was 25, I think, at the time. And they said, no, there's loads of conversion courses you can do. And I was moving back to Glasgow anyway. So Glasgow Uni have like a 1-year conversion masters in software development. And I applied for that. And it was like extremely difficult year. It was like 9 to 5, 5 days a week. But 1 year you got a master's in software development. So yeah, it was really difficult. And I had to work part-time as well to make ends meet. So I was living off like £40 a week and just like studying all the time, but it was so worth it. And I definitely feel like I learned more in the first month of that course than I did in 4 years of my undergrad. But yeah, so that's how I got into tech. And I've had a few jobs since then, but the most formative one was not a job, but an internship called Inspiring Digital Leaders. And it was 5 months, 5 different marketing agencies in Glasgow. And you alternate and go and do a different discipline in each one. And it was absolutely amazing just to get to see what different development teams are like in different companies and what the different work culture is. And the connections I made through that internship were really amazing. And my first job out of it was at one of the agencies for 1.5 years. And now I'm at one of the other agencies that were involved in that internship. So if anyone is graduating, or if you're going to be graduating in the future, look out for it. I think it's starting up next year. It was on hiatus because of COVID. But yeah, it's a really good into the digital marketing sort of side of things in Glasgow. But yeah, that's me.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. So it's really interesting to hear all the different stories that everybody's got and their different routes into tech. Really interesting. So the first question that we're going to get kicked off with is one for Bushra under the skills needed for a job in technology. So if you could talk a bit about that, and I'd encourage anyone as well who's got any questions on the subject to pop their questions in the chat box as well.
The skills needed for a tech job. So I have grown up in an environment where people were dropping out their schools while they were in high school and never got to do, we have a system, you go straight away to uni after high school. But I know loads of developers where they didn't study in high school, but they were great developers back there. So the first of all, I would say is just want to be a developer if you want to do it. And if you want to change your career, it depends on what you study. So I studied maths, and that got me into really analytic thinking perspective. And I do really value that, because it completely changed my mind, even though I didn't realize it while I was studying maths. But afterwards, I realized that it is actually what I had to do when I was doing development. But then again, you can teach it to yourself as well. Just you need to find out your strength, and also you need to want to do it. These are for the skills where if you studied for something else, or if you didn't study anything else, you need to actually want it, and you need to really be good at Googling. As a self-taught developer, I can say mostly majority of my background is a self-taught. So I was really terrible at Googling, but then it got really better, and because if it is sometimes frustrating, the things that you're looking for online, because internet is just a space for knowledge. You just need to be really good at, you need to be specific about what you need to find and be persistent on what you're doing on that too.
And I suppose part of that, Bushra, is sort of knowing the terminology and understanding what it is that you need to search for. So like, say, the difference between, do you know the difference between what a front-end developer does, what a back-end developer does, and which kind of role might suit you best? I think sometimes that's where people trip up in knowing the language, because there's so much, isn't there, in different job specs?
That's correct. The thing is, actually, if you don't know what that word's meaning, that is where your skill on Googling comes in. That you need to learn it from Google as well.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be afraid to ask people around you if you're working on somewhere as well. You should be asking that as well. So yes, most of the stuff that comes to you initially, that you need to find your way out of it. You need to learn by Googling it, by finding the right place. But it is up to you again to learn it. That's what I can say.
What would you say around the sorts of the personal characteristics that you might need for a tech job? So as well as the technical skills, what are the sort of characteristics that you think that people need and should be kind of thinking about and working on?
First of all, I can say that you need to know yourself a bit, because you need to be a bit curious about stuff, anything. And I think you should have like a can-do attitude as well. So if you look at something and if it gives you a fear, that shouldn't happen. It should be like, oh, right, that sounds interesting. Let me just investigate. Let me just look at it. What can I find out? What can I get out of it? And as I can say, an extrovert person, you need to be really energetic, not need to be, but it is really benefiting for the side of digital agency stuff for me, to be honest, because you're going to find out lots of things if you're going to change a job, or if you're going to work in a kind of environment it's as an instinct you would want to fit in, and then it would be a lot better if you're a bit energetic, or if not, just be open to people to tell you're not that kind of person. You rather be like really quiet. You don't like to go around with them, or you don't like to hang out with people. Whoever you are, you just need to be really open about it. And what I benefit from my human skills, I would say, is I am actually a really lazy person, like quite lazy person, but it gave me the advantage of being really practical. So because I don't want to do something physical, it comes to my mind in terms of doing something that whatever I would do this to not bore me or not tire me, and to make things really practical and easy way to do. That is something as well that I am using. And I can say that do not be afraid and try to spice things up in your own way too, if you like it. Yeah.
I suppose from when we talk about the tech sector as well, there's so many different roles you can get into. So for me, I feel like I'm very much more of a people focused person. So project management suits me. And I also like the problem solving aspect of it. But you've obviously got all these different roles, like you could choose to work in sales, HR, you can choose to do something. If you are a bit more introverted, maybe, you'll be more suited to just working away in development or something like that. So I think there's such a huge range of different jobs out there, and also lots of different kinds of environments to work in. So you talked about agency work, but obviously, if you thought it was more suitable for yourself, you could go and work in a huge company like Microsoft if you thought that was going to bring you more benefits and more suited to yourself. So I think you're really right in terms of you really need to dig down and understand who you are as a person to get that job satisfaction and find the right role. And sometimes it's a bit trial and error, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, true. And do not afraid of changing jobs. Do not afraid of changing careers. When I started developing, I was 28. And I was really late in my life, I would say. I mean, considering the new grads and like master degree students, I was really late. But then again, it's just up to you. And instead of working in an environment or working on a job where you're going to spend most of your life, that's going to make you unhappy, it's just step up and change it. I mean, you are more important than anything else. And
I think we're seeing a real boom at the moment, aren't we, in the tech industry? There's just so many jobs coming up, and the market's just expanding so fast. There's bound to be something for you out there that'll fit for you.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, brilliant. Thank you. That was really interesting. So next we're going to move on to different types of roles with Amandine. She's going to talk a bit about the range of roles and different types of companies as well.
Yeah, so you've touched a bit on kind of different departments and roles that you could have, but I guess, depending on the type of industry or company that you kind of would like to end up in or aim for, the structure might be a bit different within the company, but also within the teams. And if you were to do more freelance work, even, for example, you might end up wearing a lot of those hats at the same time. So I would say in terms of company structure, it most likely involves different teams, like you mentioned, everything to manage the projects and the clients from the ground up to the delivery of a project. So to name a few, like account management, marketing, design, technical teams, project management. There's many more. I can't name all of them. And then within those teams, there can be different specialization and different roles. For example, in a technical team, you can have the development team, which can be also split into different areas. So you can have front end, back end, mobile apps. You can go even deeper if you wanted, DevOps, infrastructure, data science, testing, support, cybersecurity. And then in design, you can have different roles as well. So UX, which is user interaction, user experience design, motion design even for some companies, and content as well, which ties in with the design often. And then in marketing, you can have SEO, which is search engine optimization, and all sorts of analytics, social media, paid advertisement. So that there's loads of loads of areas and loads of different teams that you could kind of research and see if anything kind of takes your fancy. And then within a team, there can be a hierarchy or there can be no hierarchy at all. That depends on the companies and how they kind of implement that within their teams. So again, for an example, within a tech team, you could have a CTO, so like a technical lead, a senior developer, a developer, junior developer, or graduate developer, because a lot of companies have graduate programs that kind of allow you to train, be trained for about a year before you jump into like projects. So that gives you the opportunity to work on different things that they might be dealing with within the company, and then you can kind of find your way to a role that suits you best, with the goal, obviously, to have a position at the end of it. And again, a role could mean different things depending on the company. So do your research. You might think, oh, this job here as a developer sounds great, but then this same title for another company is actually completely different, like tech stack and work even that you are going to end up producing. So yeah, do your research.
So how would you go about that then? If I'm a student that's just graduated, what kind of activities would you recommend that they would do before even applying for a job?
Are we talking about a tech job here? Like, sorry, a developer job?
Whatever subject you feel most comfortable about. So just to give,
I think the developer ones might be a bit more specific in terms of kind of tech stack you might fancy working with, or skills that you might want to learn, something that's on your radar, or the type of projects that you might want to work in. So that's kind of something I'm going to touch about in a minute, in terms of whether you wanted to work on more kind of marketing focused sites, or in-house products, tools, or somewhere in between.
Yeah, and I suppose they'd give quite a lot of that information away on their websites, wouldn't they? By looking at the kind of the previous projects and things that they've worked on, you could kind of read into that.
Yeah, I guess most of the information you can gather before going in for an interview, for example, would come from doing your research around the company itself, and studying case studies that they might have, and coming up with kind of questions on some of them that you might want to find out more about before you can make your mind on if you have any worries, like specific worries, no matter what the role. I'm sure you can. So what I'd like to say is to interview the interviewer. It's as much about you as it is about them finding the right fit. So have all your questions ready as much as you can. And yeah, soft skills are also obviously something that you guys mentioned, quite important. I think a lot of people underestimate the soft skills level, and how important that can be in finding an ideal role.
And I think even if you've got work experience whilst you've been a student, you know, I remember I worked at Domino's Pizza for 3 years whilst I was a student. And although that sounds like a fairly kind of the non-specific job, it taught me a heck of a lot about how to deal with customers and things like that. So you'll be surprised how many transferable skills that you've built up, even if you feel like your CV's not quite there yet. It's important to dig into that and to work out like where you've got communication skills and all these transferable skills that you've picked up over the years. And how about sort of different management styles then? And, you know, just speaking about working for different roles and different cultures, I think it's also important to understand maybe what kind of support that you might need from your manager when you go into these roles as well.
Yeah, so I guess depending on the company that you work with, it could be a really large company or more of a startup or a more established startup, because startup is so wide that it could mean under 10 people company, and it could mean hundreds of employees. So depending on the kind of choice you make, the kind of environment that you feel that is going to be the most suitable to you, then also depending on the project, the kind of projects that you work on, whether they're like in-house products or like for different clients within agency environments, for example, then you might kind of find out that you have a bit more autonomy around your tasks, or that you maybe have to make a bit more decisions at certain levels because of the pace of work or the structure of the teams that you're working with, in general, within your department or on a project, specific project. So yeah, I guess it doesn't hurt to kind of ask those questions as well about professional development opportunities that the companies might have for the kind of team that you're in. And yeah, kind of and interview the interviewer is my my best kind of advice here. And then yeah, you might want to have more ownership over your work in general, so that might also lead you to make certain decisions. You might feel more comfortable in one environment rather than the other. And again, with the size of the company, you might have more or less processes in place to not only manage the workload, but also kind of deliver things and put things to production. And at every level, from project management to development, and at every level, that might mean that a lot more people need to have eyes upon the work before it gets launched to production, as opposed to, oh, let's just push that live like in the next hour kind of thing. So yeah, depending on the level of involvement, responsibilities, stress levels that you're kind of after, there's many different options out there. So it's all about doing the right research and knowing kind of where you'd like to sit.
Yeah, definitely.
The learning curve as well could be a lot harder, maybe in smaller companies where you're pushed to kind of produce faster and deliver things faster. Whereas larger companies tend to have like I mentioned, the graduate programs and things like that, where you have an entire year to kind of be brought up to speed with the tools and technologies and processes that the companies have before you're thrown onto like a project as such.
Yeah, I think there's lots of pros and cons to each, aren't there? It's just about knowing yourself and thinking about which place that you're best suited, I suppose.
But like Bushra said, don't be afraid to kind of explore as well. It's quite hard, even if you know yourself quite well. I think it's quite hard to find the right position straight away. It might be that you kind of need to explore a little and try different things, and then you realize what you like and don't like, or how people do different things different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not until you start to experience these things till you really find out a bit more about yourself and have an idea of where you might fit. That's been brilliant, thank you. We'll move I think your dog said it's time as well. We'll move on to the next question, which is about narrowing down your career path and finding your specialism, and that one's for Rosa to talk a bit around.
Yeah, well, just listening to Amandine there's super interesting, and I've noticed in the chat there's a few girls that are like finishing up or have questions about. I think there's Kaylee up there. Whether or not to do coding. I think what Bushra and Amandine's pointed out is like you have to know yourself, and that might be a matter of just writing down all of your characteristics, what you're like Bushra said, that inherently lazy, or I'm the same, but I think if you are a curious person, you are committed to lifelong learning, which is like what development is all about, because things change all the time, then it would be for you. But yeah, writing down what you're like and what you like, and it might even be a matter of what brands or products do you like. I know that the job that I probably got the most enjoyment out of was working for like a women's health brand a few years ago, and because I felt really passionate about the product. And if you are able to like identify things that you like or companies that you like, and then see what they're doing, or maybe there's an app that you really enjoy using, see what languages that it's made in. Like there's loads of websites like Built With, or what CMS and things like that, and you can put in any website or any product and find out exactly what languages, programming languages or tools were used to create them. And then if that's something that you would like to work on, you know, use Code Academy or reach out to other developers and find out what sort of skills you would need. I think the Code Academy is a really good thing to go on to and maybe try one course in like a couple of different languages and see which one that you like the most. And as Amandine said, there's like so many different kinds of development, but with regards to like back end and front end, I had no idea what those were whenever I finished uni. Because my course was mostly back end, so they never actually had to say back end. And then after, I think someone asked me, "Oh, are you going into front end or back end development?" And I just like made something up. But it was only with experience that I learned that the front end is, you know, how things look and how they're styled and how things are laid out. And if you, you know, touch something or click something, what the interactions look like. And the back end is more kind of under the hood, dealing with like data and more logical sort of stuff. So if you're more of a person that is more into design and more of the aesthetics, then maybe have a look at sort of front end and see if that's something that you like, or and the same with back end. But I just talked about how my undergrad was in humanities, more of an artistic thing, but I'm actually a back end developer. And that's just because that's sort of how I got started, and I really like the element of sort of solving puzzles and problem solving that's in back end development. And there's no reason why just because you go down one route, you can't switch it up. It just is an investment of time. And you know, you can do that over time. Like my sort of plan is to get as good at back-end development as I can in the next few years, and then start looking at moving into front-end development to become what they call full stack, which just means that you've broad range of skills. So you don't have to cut yourself off and you don't have to go down one route, you know, but understanding, as we said, like all the different vocabulary and all the different roles and sort of matching up, okay, app developers have these sort of characteristics, or infrastructure developers have these sorts of characteristics. What I'm like kind of matches this one, and then reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, because the development community are really, really forthcoming. And I'm sure all of us, like, you know, connect with all of us, and you can ask us any questions at all.
That's something that I
yeah.
was going to ask about, Rosa, is, you know, how have you gone through any sort of career side steps and career development with the help of people? We've talked quite a lot about, you know, Googling stuff and knowing your terminology, but I suppose it's important to stress having those conversations with people in your community, with your line managers, and really reaching out to people. Don't be scared to ask questions.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And in fact, that is, asking questions will get you a job in a job interview, because if you don't, they'll think there's something wrong. So come well equipped with many. But yeah, how I got into sort of moving into development was my brother was about to study software development, and I said to him, "I'm thinking about doing this. Do you think it's a good idea?" And he was like, "It's definitely not a bad idea." And then once you realize, oh, that's what development is, or whatever, I realized that 3 guys that I went to school with were developers, and I reached out to them and said, you know, what sort of thing do you do? And they were all web developers. And I was like, oh, that actually sounds like something I would be really into, because websites are, there's quite a quick turnaround, so you can make something and build it and get to see the final product quite quickly. Whereas if you're working on like a piece of software, that could be years in the making, and you don't get to see the outcome, for quite a period of time. But yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I'm going to move on because we're quickly running out of time, unfortunately. So next we've got Beth, and she's going to be speaking about entering the tech world, and some of the things that we've already spoken about, but we're going to go through some of the types of interviews that you get, line management, and also following your gut instinct as well.
Yeah, so I guess we kind of talked quite a bit about the different roles in tech, but kind of what is kind of equally, if not more important than your role, is kind of the company and the environment that you're in and how that suits you. So kind of looking at company culture is really important, because it can vary as much as kind of the day-to-day activities can. And kind of as a general, kind of overgeneralizing maybe, but you kind of get like smaller companies and agencies, and in general they tend to be a bit more casual, a bit less structured, but on the flip side you kind of have to be a wee bit more independent. Then you kind of get big kind of formal companies with really well established structures, which kind of tend to offer you a wee bit less scope to be independent, but tend to have a bit more guidance and more defined teams and more defined processes. So it kind of depends how you learn better and how you fit into that kind of culture. There's also things that's kind of come to the forefront a lot recently, is kind of the work-life balance that you'd get as well. So would you want to be somebody who works flexibly, looking at things like holidays and maternity and sickness leave and paternity and all those kind of things as well, whether you'd be online or in person. And even like perks and stuff, like some companies offer like gym memberships, or there's clubs you can get involved in, or committees, things like pension, which I really should pay more attention to. It's super important. And even like bonuses and stuff like that. So there's tons of stuff as well that kind of go around just the day-to-day of what you'll be working on. And kind of there's different types of companies as well. So you can kind of research the company either through their website or on sites like Glassdoor to see what like previous employees have kind of said about it. I think sometimes that needs to be taken with a pinch of salt, because often the people who do pipe up are the people with an axe to grind, but it gives you a little bit of an idea anyway of kind of what people are saying. There's also like companies, a lot of them are on social media as well, so the kind of stuff that they post, the kind of stuff that they value, they'll kind of share on social media as well. So things like maybe if you're interested in the demographic of the company, does it seem like a diverse place to work? Is it kind of inclusive? That sort of thing. Do they care about those issues? Do you care about those issues? And things like that. For me personally, I'd had negative experiences with diversity and inclusion at previous companies, and that's something I was really looking for when I changed jobs and careers. I was looking for a company that actively promoted diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Because I guess we're all here because kind of we're female, and that can sometimes be a little bit of a barrier in tech and STEM. So I tend to look out for companies that recognize and value diversity. So kind of similarly to that, do your values align with company values? A lot of them kind of post on their websites the type of personality and the types of values that they're looking for. Is that something that aligns with you? There are certain companies as well, like as an example, I used to work for a defense company, and some people, that doesn't align with their own ethics, and that's not something that they would want to do. Similarly, maybe with banking, some people don't feel comfortable in that. So I think that's quite important, kind of not to sell your soul.
Yeah, I think people underestimate that, don't they? And what sort of experiences have you had in interviews? I know from my experience, they can range quite a lot from being super informal to going through multiple stages. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, none of my interviews for any of my jobs have been the same. There's kind of some companies will give you technical interviews. So that could be like a task they set you before the interview that they ask you to discuss in the interview. There could be a test live in the interview. Or sometimes it's a bit more informal and a bit of a discussion about your kind of technical abilities. A lot of companies now are also kind of doing cultural interviews as well and asking you those questions about values and how they align. And they're kind of looking really kind of at your general demeanor and how you get on with people. That's really important these days. And also kind of trying to get a gist of whether or not you actually care about the job and the company, or whether you're just kind of going reaching for anything. Things like as well, like, is the interview in person? It might sound really petty, but I was interviewing for the agency I work at now, having come from quite a corporate background, and I turned up in kind of like a suit and heels, and the person interviewing me was wearing shorts and no shoes.
No shoes at all.
Yeah, and I thought, okay, maybe I've overdressed.
I've read the room wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I've really like misread this. So I did comment on at the interview and said like, oh, I didn't really know. So things
Maybe
like
that was just a test.
Yeah, I don't know. So just things like that, like and whether or not you kind of would like to be in a relaxed atmosphere, or whether you're kind of used to something a bit more corporate.
Yeah.
Also things like if your interview is going to be virtual, what's in the background?
Yeah.
Who's in the background, that kind of thing. You'd kind of want to let people know in your household that you're in a meeting. You don't want anyone wandering in, disturbing you who didn't expect to be on camera. And also things like if you're on camera kind of in an interview, it can be quite hard to not be distracted by screens and things. So you really need to kind of actively listen and participate in the discussion of an interview. Because that's the thing, like everyone said so far, it is a discussion and you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
Yeah.
So kind of Amandine covered this as well, but kind of be yourself. Kind of, you'll not get anything out of it if you pretend to be something you're not, or if you agree to things that you're not comfortable with.
Yeah.
And like Rosa said, you kind of have to figure out what motivates you and what your interests are. And also things like I kind of mentioned perks and stuff before, so, and it kind of leads into kind of going with your gut. So if something in an interview doesn't feel right, then there's a reason for it. And if it doesn't feel right to you, that's not petty. That's kind of your conscience telling you like, actually, this isn't for you. I wouldn't kind of rush into something that you're not comfortable with. Kind of an example I had from my experience of kind of going with my gut was that when I changed careers and I moved into tech, I kind of had two different job offers, and one was kind of for a banking job. It was a lot more formal, there'd be more formal training, and the other one was the agency that I work at now, with the guy with no shoes. And it was a lot more laid back and things like that. And the first job actually kind of paid better, and it had many more things that I was used to, but the second one let me take my dog in. Which sounds ridiculous, but for me it was kind of this thing where like, oh, this is such a nice environment, and I never thought I could like work with my dog. And it's just like the little things that like make every day a little bit better. It makes a huge difference. I've been in situations before when I've worked around people who I'm not similar to, or I'm not comfortable with, and even though I enjoyed the work, it wasn't enough to make me stay.
Yeah, totally get that. I think we've all been in those sorts of positions, and you're right, you really need to enjoy the company of the people that you're working for and the culture that you're working in as well. That's so important.
Yeah.
So we've just got about 5 minutes left now, so I'm just going to start to see if we've got any questions in the chat box that we haven't answered yet, and anyone on the call as well, feel free to pipe up with any questions that you've got. So we've got one from Abigail saying she's a first year student in a non-computing related degree. What can I do now to make myself appealing to potential tech employers? Any thoughts on that one?
I just was thinking that you don't need, I don't think you need a tech degree to get a job in tech. If if you have a portfolio and can show someone that you've created, you know, websites or an app, and that you've done it, you've taught yourself how to do it, and if you take the time while you're doing, you know, your non-computing degree now, then in a couple of years' time, you might have a load of really amazing work and have learnt loads, and that'll be, you know, if not more impressive or equally impressive as having a computing degree. I don't know what anyone else thinks, but oh, Beth, I think you're muted.
You're mute.
You're muted, Beth. There you
This
go.
always happens.
It's classic.
I've been on Zoom like nearly 2 years now. I still don't. Anyway, yeah, so I'm kind of a test engineer, so I'm kind of flying the flag for a different type of kind of working, still in like technical functions, but you're not a developer. And for me, I didn't need any like, I had coding experience, but I didn't need it, and I didn't need to be able to kind of prove that. The kind of skills that you need in testing are more like, I guess, like being a bit pedantic and kind of being able to kind of understand what you're looking at and kind of line up what something should be doing versus what it does. So it's kind of skills where you can say, like, I mean, testing can apply to a lot of things you've done. You say you reviewed somebody's paper during a literature degree, you're kind of testing it, and you can kind of talk about how you can transfer those skills to kind of combing through a website in a similar kind of mindset. You can learn the skills on the job, but it's all these transferable things that you build up no matter what your experience, that you can kind of apply. So yeah, be testers.
How I got my current job was I was working in a different company, different digital agency, and we were using Umbraco as a CMS software, and I just joined the meetup in Glasgow, and I really liked the people there, and I learned a lot of stuff in just 2 hours. And they said that they have a Slack channel, and then they are doing this meetups almost every month in Scotland, in Glasgow and in Edinburgh. And they were doing this UK festival a few months after that, and I joined that. And then I just did something really silly. It's nothing to do with tech. It was just this funny chili eating thing.
Oh, my God.
And I joined that, and I beat the founder of the company, and then everything just started. It's just fun. I went there to learn stuff, learn some stuff, and then I ended up like right in the middle of the community, and people were like asking me to join their YouTube channels to talk through what I am doing. And then they started to like ask me to write some articles, even if you're not a technical person. And this is just within the first year of my development career. If you're not still a developer or working in a tech company or working as a tech job, you can just go into these meetups and learn what they are doing, and just put yourself out there to just say you're really interested in, and just show your interest in them, and then you would really be appealed to them too. So it's not that hard. It's just up to you.
Mm-hmm.
Good tips. We've also got a question in about I suppose the difference between taking up a course in something or trying to teach yourself, from Kaylee. She said there's no real programming in my course, so I know there'll be lots of different kind of coding courses probably out there, but maybe we could talk a bit about whether how to make the choice as to whether you want something that is self-taught or whether you feel like you need to go on a course to get your skills.
Well, for me, it is. Oh, sorry, Rosa, you go first.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, so it is. You actually need to decide if you're really interested in it, and YouTube is really great place, or Udemy, or there are so many different course or online course platforms that you can actually pick up something even for free or really tiny amount of money to realize if you want to do this or not. And if you want to do this, then you can change your study or get extra courses, or actually you can continue learning online. But you need to decide if you want to do this or not, or what you want to do in tech related jobs, or whatever the skills that you want to learn.
I think for me, I responded much better to just having a course, because I'm not that self-motivated, you know, in my free time. In terms of like doing extra courses and stuff like that, I would probably be sitting on the sofa, you know. Having a course that I had to get up and go to and do the dissertation and do the coursework, and I had to learn the stuff to do well. I just personally responded well to that, although I definitely don't think, if I know lots of people that are always have side projects on the go that they're just doing in their spare time. If you're equipped to do that, I don't think that you would need to have some sort of qualification. But it just depends what you're like, I think.
For me, I would say personal circumstances come in quite a lot as well, because even though I've always kind of had different, not necessarily web development, but like all kinds of interests throughout my life, I've always had to work like a job I didn't want to be in full time just to pay the bills. And going into a whole degree for 3 years was the only way that I could do that full time, like the course. And I had a student loan, so that meant I didn't need to work full time to pay my bills and my rent and all that. So that helped a lot in that sense. The course itself, I wasn't really, it's not, it was great, but it's not, it wasn't my main focus when I decided to kind of go for a degree. It helped kind of gain more knowledge on the technical, I don't know, like theory of things. And I guess you do have group projects and like side projects on the go, but it's mainly, for me, it was mainly having the time to concentrate on that and being able to take up an internship part-time aside of it and be paid for it. So I could drop my other part-time job or like do like side projects as well at the same time. It wasn't necessarily the kind of coursework itself that motivated me. It was more what I was able to do aside of it.
Also, there's loads of really good like YouTube videos out there. If, for example, Bushra mentioned Umbraco, which is a content management system like WordPress or Squarespace or anything. And I know there's like a YouTube video that's like make an Umbraco site from scratch, you know, and it's you follow like 16 videos or whatever, and then at the end you have a full website, and that sort of thing is really useful for, you know, springing something up quickly that you would have in your portfolio and learning like the whole process from start to finish. So
I suppose
yeah.
Sorry, Amandine, I was just going to say, I suppose as well, it's about testing the water to see if it's something you want to do before you commit to like a long-term course. So a few years ago, I studied with the Open University and I did Java and HTML and PHP. And I just found it wasn't for me. I was just at that point, I was like, right, I'm definitely not technical. I'm definitely more on the people side. So sometimes as well, it's about ruling things out, isn't it? And deciding what's not for you as well is just as important as what is for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Something I always kind of underestimated, because I don't necessarily spend a lot of time on side projects when I work, but like having a page, a GitHub thing that you can then put, this is strictly development kind of roles here we're talking about, but yeah, if you were to work on a tutorial or a project from scratch or anything, like save it in your GitHub, and then you can eventually maybe share it with employers. Some employers don't actually make you do a code test. They just kind of look at what you've done in the past or what kind of tutorials you've done or how you can adapt from a language to another. So yeah, that's definitely something that I'm trying to do a bit more now.
Brilliant. That was so I think that brings us to a close then. Thank you everyone. It's been a really interesting chat and really good to hear about everybody's different experiences. I think there's you know, you've given us so much information in that. It's been really interesting to talk to you all. Any final comments or questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. Thanks, Anna. So
Yeah.
I think we'll bring that to a close then. But it's been brilliant chatting and having you on the call as well. It's been a really interesting talk. And yeah, I suppose best of luck in your career journeys as well. That's
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to us if you ever need anything you want to talk.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
LinkedIn, I think all the event had all our links in it.
Yeah, LinkedIn,
Yes. Yeah.
Twitter.